Well, here I'm putting a plank in here. Now, as I promised on my one of my Facebook groups, that I was going to make a video on this. So here's an attempt at it. You can see I've cut the angle here and put it in the line where the plank is going to go there. I put I'll put super glue on the end of this like this here, and right here, and along this top of this right here. Now this plank has been soaked in water for about 30 minutes, so it's very soft. I'm going to put it right into this. I'm going to pinch it in place. My thumb, I'm going to take super glue accelerator. I'm going to squirt that like that. Press it in place again. Because of the water in the plank and the super glue itself sets almost immediately, and it sets firm. Now immediately I can start laying my plank down. I'm not going to butt it up against this one because the plank has to lay flat against the frames. So it's going to sit about here, so it lays flat against the frames, and it's going to see an angle, a gap right here. And I'll show how to fill that gap in, like I did down. You can see these that I did, and I posted pictures of them online. I made this and this, and one here. Now those are called steelers when they're on the end of the stern like this, and they're called, what do I believe? They're joggle plants. That's it. Planks. That's it. When they're on the bow. At least that is what from the book sources that I have seem to call them. Now here, I'll just lift the plank up. I'll put a drop of super glue there and here, all the way along where the plank is going to be laying on each of the frames. And so press it down, and I hold it in place like this, and each those little things gets a little spot or shot of the accelerator. You just keep pressing down for a few minutes. Well, not even that really, sometimes 10 or 15 seconds is all it really takes, and that's all. All right, now your plank's in place, and that's not going to come off unless you pry it off. Now I've got a ship over here. I'll go a picture of it. That right there, that's the USS Pennsylvania. That was the first one I did on scratch build. And that one was done just like I'm doing this one with CA. That was almost 15 years ago. And that, no problems, nothing's springing loose, nothing's falling off, everything's holding in place nice and tight. So I guess I would say super glue is a pretty good bet for this modeling. And I don't know, we'll do another one here real quick where you see this split. When you see your first little seam here, where it comes together on your first bulkhead, you take your blade and you cut. Now because it's dry, or I'm sorry, because it's wet, it cuts really easy. You just poke it in here, poke it in here. You can make your little slit just like that. Going back, excuse me 1 second, I have to burn your plank. As you can see, it's pretty well soaked up in wood, or in water, I'm sorry. And I'm going to make from about here, see this is about the width of a plank right here. Not quite, but pretty close. The actual width of the plank would be about there. I don't have to do it all the way, but I'm just going to sit and make a cut in this wet plank all the way over to there. I'm going to take a couple passes. get that carved off just right. Now this usually takes some time right here. Now I'll make another one right about here. Really not as, it won't thin the plank quite as much. So you see, I have the slot for my steeler. This is not the neatest little cut I've ever made. And you take your wet plank, take your pencil, and you put it in here like this, and you measure with a pencil a little mark like this. And you lay your plank down like this. So you see up at the top here where it starts to meet this other plank up on top. And now I've got my straight edge lined up on these two marks pretty much. I'm just going to follow the tip of my X-Acto knife, make a few passes, tight up against steel. It wasn't quite long enough, so I have to make the cut in two sections. Well, it's got the plank started. I'm going to bring it up over here. Excuse the jumping around. And then we'll fit it in here. And I can see I made it was quite a bit too thin. Like that, right? Well, simply move the plank up until it fills the gap. Like that. Still a little too thin because I made this little dip here. My cut wasn't as straight as I would have liked. I should have drawn a line and done it. But I don't worry too much about those little gaps. I fill this in with super glue and press it and spray it with accelerant, and it fills in this gap. Now this hull from the water line all the way down later on is going to be covered in copper tape that is cut into small sections to simulate tile. So this will be filled in. The whole hull will be sanded. It will be painted with a wood glue to seal all the seams, and then I will put a wood filler on the whole hull, sand it down, and then I will paint it with gray primer, and then I will most likely draw my pattern for my tiles on the primer, because the tiles adhesive sticks to the primer much better than it does to regular paint. Don't ask me why. I can't tell you. It just does. I've done 10 hulls that way. This is my 11th one, so I'm speaking from experience there. And it's fit right in there nice and tight. And this can go all the way over to here. Now, because I only made the cut to there, I have to redo it again to about there. So actually, I'm just going to kind of take this, piece of sandpaper, just like that. And we'll just simply hold this on the edge like this. And I will sand this until I think I have where it will fit. Better too light than too much. We go back up over here again. Buff it in there. Move it along. You know, she's pretty close. She only needs just a little bit on there to make it fit properly. A little bit more. Just kind of go back and keep doing it until it gets to where it fits as snug as you can. I don't like gaps, but you can live with them. And you can actually probably take my knife and just cut a little bit more of this off of here. No, probably will fit. And that's pretty tight. And they're pretty good. You know, normally I wouldn't put super glue on the edges. I just put it on the bulkheads. But since this is so nice and tight here, I'll do it both. And put this in place. You lay it down flat, press it in. This is what to do. Now, you can see where I have these gaps. In here, in here. Like I said, and don't worry about that because I single plank. You fill this gap in. This is a medium CA. And you just run a bead into that gap. Just like that. Alright. Let it dry for a few seconds. Piece of paper towel. And you wipe it off like that. And give it a spritz. Now here and there, you're going to have to redo it. You can see here, because it didn't fill in completely. So you just go back around, back on it. Tip plugged up on me here. Still a little plugged up. No, give it a spritz. And the paper towel, give it a little wipe. You can see that fills in. It's hard. It's hard like a rock. You take your sandpaper, and later on you're going to sand your whole hull this way. And you just sand that down. I just want to do a little bit, give you an idea. When I get it all finished, it'll all get glued, the gaps will get filled like that, and then it'll get glued with the wood glue that I paint the holes with. And basically how I would do that. And down on here, you have a little bit different situation where I couldn't lay it flat like this. So what I'll do is make a little cut here and here. And I'm going to make okay, there you go, and I have a little piece I'll be making right in there. Take a piece of some little spare. Now this is a little bit thin, and it won't quite fit because this is a little broad. So I need to get a different piece to fill that in. The planks that I use are normally 3/16 of an inch. And they're normally 3/16 of an inch. And what I'll do is sometimes I'll make a little bit wider one. So when I run into a situation like this, I have something that I can put in there like that. Sometimes it'll take me a couple snips at the end with my knife. Get the angle right, and it goes in there. I just make my mark. Put this in here, and like that. Get my med soap, make that mark here. And like I did before, right here, take a blade, score it, sometimes like this, right? And then let's go back over here. This is going to fit right inside there. It should, and hopefully it will. Just put it inside there. So it's just a tiny bit, well, maybe not. Oh, so it fits right in there. Just like that. In this case, since I don't want to risk not being able to get it back in the same position that it was, if I take it out to glue it, I'm just going to run super glue along the edge of the seam here, like that. Take my Accelerate, give it a quick spray, wipe it down, and then I have the little sealer. Like I said, afterwards, I'll sand everything smooth. You can tell the difference with the damp planks, they're kind of fuzzy when I sanded them, and the dry planks are not. When I come back later, after these are dry, and then give this another sanding, that fuzziness will come off. And later on, farther down the line, when I seal the hull and do all that other work, you'll be able to see how it looks and how nice and smooth the hull is where I apply the tape, because the copper tape that I use is very, very thin. If there's any marks dips or anything in the hull, it shows. So the hull almost has to be glass, smooth, and perfect. And I can get it that way, and I will show you how to do that later. I hope this isn't too long, and I hope you learned something. Bye.